Showtime! Hey! Hi everyone and welcome for another episode of the Puppet Podcast. Thank you everyone to be there to supporting us. We just launched our Patreon account. We have our website now. If you want to see more interviews, it's just online at puppetpodcast.com. Really easy. And the Patreon is the patreon.com/puppetpodcast. So just be comfortable to just go have a look on those things. And as we are always on YouTube, also we release every week some new interview. But tonight for the area of my guests, I go across the Atlantic and we have a giant puppetry. I'm working in giant puppetry, but he's a specialist in giant building. So I will just bring him in the screen and we will talk about this wonderful art that we share. Please welcome Jake.
Hi,
Jake
good evening.
Yay. Thank you to be part of the podcast.
A pleasure. Happy to be here. It's good fun.
Yes. So UK, could you just bring me more in? I don't know all the geographic of UK, but in which area you are?
We are literally in the middle. The furthest you could be from the sea in any direction, we're there. So we are near Birmingham. Birmingham's the biggest city near us. So about an hour north of London. You could drive to the coast in probably about 3 hours. But yeah, the UK isn't that big. It's not like America. It's not a 7-hour drive or anything. But yeah, we're literally right in the middle.
In the middle. And you're working right now in your studio in Leviathan Workshop, and you build giant puppets.
Yes, very big puppets. I think the biggest we've built is around 6 meters tall. I'm not sure that is in feet. It's big. But big puppets are our speciality, as it were.
Yeah, and could you introduce us about your path, like how you arrive into puppetry?
Sure. So I'm a bit of a mixed background. I started off as a performer when I was young. I went to a theatre school till I was about 15 and trained as a dancer. And I decided I wanted to work in technical theatre. I thought I was going to be a set designer. I've always liked puppets. I've been making puppets since I was like 5 years old. And in my early teens, I got a bit more serious about it. And I was like, I'd quite like to work in film maybe and make animatronics and kind of complicated mechanical puppets. And then that kind of, I don't live in California, so that's not really a possibility over here. So I was like, okay, we'll see what's going on and create some interesting puppets out of bits and bobs that we have around. And then I went to university. I studied theatre design.
Oh, you're lagging, I think, Jake. I don't like when it's doing this.
After university, there we go. I'm back. You're back.
Okay. Yeah, you're back.
Yeah. I do. When I was at university, I specialised in puppets, and I worked with a really brilliant puppet maker and puppet designer there. I learned a lot from him. We fought a lot. I wasn't the best student. I always wanted to do it my way. He wanted to do it his way. And then from that, I worked as a freelance puppet maker for better part of 10 years. And then I set up my own company at some point foolishly and went, this is a great idea. I'll make puppets for people. And here we are. And I brought in a business partner, and what was originally quite a small thing suddenly grew to be quite a big thing. And it wasn't really planned. But suddenly, all big puppets rather than sensible things that I can work on that are straight in front of my face.
Yeah, it's amazing because I saw it on your website and people be like really free to go to have a look. I think I could put it on the chat. And like, it's amazing. You have done puppet for Katy Perry, for like a lot of celebrity.
Yeah, we've done some fairly high profile ones. The Katy Perry ones were a lot of fun. Time was tight on it, let's say that way. There wasn't a lot of time. We were probably on that project for 5 days end to end, because they were originally in, just sending you a link to our show reel, so you can share that to people. So they can see all the big puppets and stuff. But we got asked on the Sunday night. I was at my parents' house, not in the workshop. My business partner was here. We got a phone call saying these things have been built. They've been built not as well as we would like them, and they're unwearable. Can you step in? And so we did. And I got in a car in Oxford, went straight to the studio in London where they were rehearsing, saw them. We worked on them solidly till they went on stage, and rebuilt and redesigned the whole lot. And that was the Wednesday or Thursday night. It was pretty intense.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a fantastic project to do. The biggest problem with them when they came to us is they weighed about 70 kilos, maybe a little more, and they're 4 meters tall, and all the weight was at the top. So they just wanted to go over. And I arrived in rehearsals and they had people holding the puppeteers into them so they didn't keel over. So yeah, it was pretty intense. And we did it very fast. But it's having a great team kind of makes that possible. I'm very lucky that we have some really good puppet specialists in the area, both on a mechanical side and kind of foam fabrication. All these kind of people just kind of pulled together and it happened. And yeah, I feel very lucky to have done that one. It was a lot of fun. And then we did the rest of the tour for Katy Perry till about a year later. The last thing we did for it was actually on the world tour. We sent some stuff over and then we washed our hands of it. We were done. But yeah, so generally speaking, it's big puppets. Could be figures, could be animals. They get quite big.
Yes, and it's funny because it's international. You can build puppet and just ship it, and it's in US and it's touring and
it's I really like that part of it. There was a point, it's about 3 years ago, I think, where we realized that we'd done a huge amount of work in kind of a 5-week period, and we'd sent all the work out, and we sat down and we suddenly realized that we had work on 5 continents. And we were like, oh, okay. Oh, that happened. I'm very tired now. And that's kind of how you feel about it, because, you just want to do your best and keep working and keep going and deliver the best work you can. And I suppose for us, it's a bit different because we don't keep anything. Once a job is done for us, we package it, we ship it, and it's gone. And we may never see it again. Some we will go out and repair and fix, and we have contracts to do that. Other ones we'll never see again, and they just disappear, and that's it. And part of that's fun, part of that's exciting.
They don't send you a little picture. Look, he's still alive.
Every now and then, and when we went, and the last time we caught up with Katy Perry's team, me and my business partner, we went to London and we just went down to go say hi, have a beer and chill out. And the puppets that we had built for the Brit Awards had been repurposed, and their heads had been taken off and the hands had been changed, and they were still in the show. They just didn't look anything like what they looked like a year before. So yeah, but Katy Perry keeps everything. She has a massive warehouse that is just full of stuff. So the massive lion that Michael Curry made for her for the Super Bowl, she still has that. She wanted to tour with it, but it's too big. It's massive, like 9 meters long. It's huge.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I want to ask you about what made the art of puppetry an art that you cherish?
Oh, tricky one. So there's 2 parts to what I like about puppetry. One is as a puppeteer. It's been a while since I puppeteered a show, but I used to. Puppeteering your relationship with the puppet, I love. It's a really intimate thing with an inanimate object. So you just build this weird relationship, and you take something that is inanimate and you bring life to it. You're in control of its breath, its emotions, its thoughts. Everything is something that you are in control of. And then the other side of that is watching a really good puppeteer bring life to an inanimate object. And that moment where you see something that has just been a pile on the floor suddenly start to lift up and come to life, that's, it's a really beautiful kind of intimate moment, almost kind of visceral. And I love it. That's my favorite bit. And whilst what we do is big, there's still that moment where you get that kind of, harness everyone in, get them, into their giant backpack puppet. And then suddenly it kind of breathes and it comes alive, and it's on stage and it makes an entrance, and then the audience suddenly see that. And there's this process that happens before the audience open their eyes and get to see it. There's this whole thing that happens. I suppose it's part of what I like about theatre in general, is there is a huge amount of work that happens to make one very simple thing happen. And you go, it's an elephant, lovely. But it's taken 3 months to get to that point. And I love that. I think it's really strange, and it's unique. Like we were saying before, we started this, every culture has its own version of puppetry, and it's all different and it's all unique, but it all shares that moment of, okay, here's something we've worked really hard to create. Let's watch it come alive. And I love that. I think it's really special.
Yes, I like this answer. It's really life and death philosophy.
I suppose it is a bit.
And I want to go back in the past and ask you, like, how and when your crush for puppetry happened.
I was young. I got the bug young. This is one. My parents have lots of embarrassing photos of me. When I'm like 6 or 7, and I've made a puppet out of bits of newspaper, and I was a very making child. Like, I loved making stuff. My poor parents had to put up with that. I burnt holes in the carpet. I spilt paint across my bedroom floor. I destroyed my room as a kid because I was always making stuff. And I suppose puppets are some of the earliest things I'd have made out of bits of dowel and stuff that I had kicking around or at my nursery, and I kind of put them together. And I suppose I probably started thinking seriously about it around about 13 or so. But it was still very much a making thing for me at that point. I wanted to make cool things, and I wanted to make things that I found interesting. And I would pour over books, and I would pour over. There used to be a special effects magazine called SFX, I think, maybe, or Dreamscape or something like that. And it had articles about Jim Henson and his version of Pinocchio, which probably came out when I was about, I don't know, I was quite young. But I remember reading it, and they had pictures of the animatronic whale with 5 guys in blue around it, moving it around on a blue screen. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. How do they do that? And I've always very much been a how do they do that kind of person. And I think that's where my love of puppetry came from, is it's taking materials and ideas and stuff and turning it into something that can perform. So I got the bug really young. Probably seriously about 13, but do you have scouts where you are? When I was a kid, we used to go to like scouts, which is like like Cub Scouting for little kids and little boys and stuff. And you go and you do little shows every now and then. And I brought a puppet in a toy store and made it do a dance because that was the only thing I could think to do. And it was this big purple furry thing that was on like a marionette controller. They were really popular in the 90s. I've never seen them ever since, but they were really popular then. And I had one of them and I loved it. And it came everywhere with me. I was one of those children. So very young. I was very young when I got obsessed.
That's great. And I have like someone like Mura ask a question, so I will bring it. I discovered this new function yesterday. I can bring the question of the public into the screen.
Oh, lovely.
So
okay.
Here, and I think you have a typo, but are your puppet hydraulically operate, or do you get a puppeteer or a mime to operate it?
Ours are not hydraulic. So we have lots of ways that we do it. We build big counterweight systems. So I think you're probably thinking of either if you've seen our work, it's either the Pegasus or the Dragon. The Dragon is counterweighted. It's actually incredibly light. It's deceptive. The puppet's head is 9 foot from front to back, but it's made of carbon fiber, so it weighs 5 kilos. So whilst it looks massive and really impressive, it weighs nothing. And the entire boom arm that's on only has 20 kilos of weight in the back end to balance the whole thing. It's very light. It's very user-friendly. We do use electrical kind of type motors and stuff. So we use servo-driven motors for things like our Pegasus. That's all servo-driven. And the boom on that, which is the boom for that's kind of like a big seesaw, and it just does that. But it's driven by 2 very, very large electrical motors that are like a hydraulic piston, but they're electric. So you can run them off a 12-volt battery, but they will lift the weight of a bus. So they're very strong, a little bit noisy, but they're low voltage. So it means that we can build a unit that has batteries and chargers inside it, and just by remote control, the whole boom will lift like that, and it makes it a little bit easier. But unlike hydraulics or pneumatics, you don't risk losing pressure. So if you have a hydraulic piston and you spring a leak, it's going to drop back down because it sprung a leak. Same with pneumatics. If you lose pressure, it will drop back down. These work on like a screw inside. So when it goes up, it can't drop back down until you turn it back the other way. So it's a nice, I think they're called linear actuators. We have a robotics company that we work with a lot who are brilliant, and they're really good.
It's a lot of like engineer stuff, and you have to be smart in this.
To a certain extent, yeah. There's a lot of principles of engineering and kind of problem solving. On our, I think it's our Instagram, there's our Pegasus video. She was 3 or 4 months worth of work to get her working and functional, and everything is contained inside. So, whilst normally when you're puppeteering a horse or something like that, you might have, 2 or 3 people on the outside, everything is contained within her. Yeah, she's on there, but everything that drives her legs, her wings, her facial articulation, it's all motors inside the body, which was, it took a
time, and I know what it is. It took like try and error, and you just go for the.
And it's part of what's nice about it is, whilst we've done similar things before, and we've gone, okay, well, this is how you make an iMac, this is how you do this. Every time you put it into something new, you're just like, okay, how do we fit this inside that space? How do we power it? How do we control it? It's part of the fun.
Yes. And I want to know, because we have also people who want to know the path. Like, what is the best path to become a puppeteer in your vision, in your opinion?
Oh, there's so many paths. I mean, I suppose I come from a very traditional theatrical background. I was going to be a designer. I enjoy working with, kind of paint and color and stuff. I'm not a great artist. I can't draw to save my life, but I enjoy sculpting a lot. And I think for me as a maker, I come from a very hands-on, kind of background. And my university degree was very, very, very hands-on. And I spent the better part of 3 years in a workshop just making stuff constantly. I couldn't help myself. I would be in there till midnight, and I would be back in when we were allowed back in at 6 a.m. By my third year, I managed to get my hands on my own key, so I could go in any time of day or night. I loved it, and I think there are obviously lots of paths you can take if you want to be a traditional puppeteer. There are some great courses, especially in the UK, that are dedicated puppetry courses. My only feeling with those is that they are a little bit of a cookie cutter, and you produce puppeteers who work in a very similar way. I think it's great when you get in a room and you go, oh, you've done TV puppetry, you've done arena puppetry, oh, and you've done a little bit of theatre, and you put all these slightly different skills together, you get something a bit more interesting, in my opinion. So there is a course out there in the UK that is we produce this type of puppeteer, and that's what we do. And most of their graduates, go into Warhorse because that's the logical step, and they have great ties with that show, and they train them for that, and onwards they go. And it's all very similar in its style and taste. When you have a mix of people in a room, and you go, oh, you've done something a bit like that, oh, a bit circusy, oh, a bit, and you kind of pull it all together, and you end up with something a bit more organic, I guess. I'm used to being in a room devising with people, creating stuff as a group, rather than you hire a puppeteer who arrives on a day and then they take it and run. I like having puppeteers involved at an early stage. I like that a lot of the people who I work with have been puppeteers, or certainly have a knowledge of how to wear these kind of rigs and costumes and backpacks and stuff, because it makes a huge difference to how you build it and how comfortable you can make it for someone.
Because if someone haven't touched anything, he cannot understand the weight challenge and the move. And
and one of the guys who works for us recently just came back off the final tour of Walking with Dinosaurs, made as a mechanic restoring their stuff. But I have a friend who's a puppeteer in that show, so I get both sides of it, and I know what it's like to wear one of these rigs that weigh 60 kilos on your back, and they're like, they're all right, as well as what a pain they are to maintain. And you try and balance all the things. You try and make things work between, okay, this is going to be comfortable, but you're going to get a bit more performance if we do that, and we try and push that in and make people, I don't know, enjoy.
To keep it longer. Like the puppet have his lifetime too, so for sure you have to think it in the development of the object.
And it comes into everything that we do, especially when it comes to deciding how we're going to build something.
And do you have your own definition? Because I feel to ask, this is really amazing. You ask a puppeteer, what is your definition of a puppet? Like if a kid come to you and ask, like, what is a puppet? How you answer?
See, and it is a really broad area. Really broad. I kind of define between puppetry and performance objects as two different things. A puppet is something that, in my opinion, has been designed and engineered to perform. So even if it is, I found 4 cardboard tubes and I've tied them together to make a little rudimentary person, that is a puppet. Whereas if you just pick up those 4 tubes between 2 people and make a person, that's a performance object. So I think with a puppet, there has been a willful design choice somewhere in the process. And it could be, I stuck a stick on the back of it, I've done this, and I've kind of twisted it and I've stuck something on there. I think that that makes quite a bit. That's my definition. I'm going with that.
Yeah, because it's the props, and sometimes it's hard to have a proper definition or to diversify what is a puppet. I'm glad you have your own, and it's great. It's building the definition because everyone seems to have his own, and I think it's amazing.
I think I've done a lot of I teach at a university in Wales, and part of what I work and talk to the actors about is that you literally all you need is a couple of ping pong balls and you can make a symbol of a person, and that's an object. That's object performance as opposed to puppetry, which is here's something, it has a mouth or it has thing that allows you to call it a puppet. That's my official answer. I'm going with that.
Yeah. And as a director of a company, like you have your own company, do you have like a big purpose for the future? Because I always ask if the puppetry art is in an ascension or is getting less popular. Like, what is your vision for the future?
So it's weird. Puppetry has kind of gone like that at the moment, and it's kind of settled. The last couple of years, it's settled around a kind of sensible place. Where people aren't just doing puppetry for the sake of puppetry. There was a point about 9 years ago where people were like, let's put a puppet in it. And it was like, does it really need to be a puppet? No? Okay. All right. We'll put a puppet in. And you do that, and that's fine. And that's great. And, and it is a popular medium at the moment. I think for us, in terms of what we do and what we want to create, it's always about doing the biggest, coolest thing. It's a real boy answer, and I apologize. We started off really philosophical at the front end of this, and now we're on...
It's funny. It's perfect.
I love a challenge, and if someone comes to me and says, "Can you do this?" Can it be done? The answer is probably, and the answer is, how do we then take your idea and go, okay, you want an elephant with 2 people inside it, can't see any seams, they can't see out. How do we make that work? What do we put in place to allow that to happen? Okay, well, they've got to be on stilts because they're not elephant height. Okay. We've got to build a frame around it. Oh, and we've got to get onto a cruise ship. Okay, so it's got to fit through a hole this size. Great. And that's part of it, I think. There is that joy in solving the problems and the unknown, as it were. I think for us, it will continue to be big puppets, arena-sized puppets. Probably for more pop stars, there is a degree of that because they like big things. They work on an arena scale. But there'll also be TV stuff and film stuff and other bits. At the moment, we can't have any theatre because they're all shut. So, so we can't have arena tours. So we're finding new and interesting ways and, finding other ways to do our work. But when things get back to normal, it will be more big stuff. Big stuff.
Big stuff. I like the boy vision. It's big cool stuff.
It's that, it is a line between engineering and puppet making. A lot of the techniques we use are very similar to what I would do in a puppet that size to something that's 4 meters tall. It's just looking at the materials and applying them differently.
The love of all the matters. That's great. And do you have, maybe to conclude, I always like to see an object, something you want to bring into the screen.
I don't have a puppet, unfortunately, because we don't own anything. It all goes. But what I do have, which I'm going to have to stand up and because I don't actually have room for it. So these were Katy Perry's lips, which you can probably just make out. I'm just in frame. So these were their polyfoam, their cast foam. We made 12 of these, 12 sets that the dancers wore with eyeballs in the middle. These were for Glastonbury. And it's a bit old now, but you know, we keep all the information for things like this.
Oh yeah.
So it'll tell you everything that we've done in terms of how we painted it, what we did with it. Whilst we don't have the mold for this anymore, this is the last one, other than the ones that Katie has. We kept it so that we could have one. But you know, so those did. Those were a weird one. So I did the first part of the sculpture, and then Jeff, who was working for us at the time, did the finishing. They got passed on to more people who, Jeff, Tony, Nicole, they all worked on making the castings. And it was all a bit of a haze of 9 days of making. And they went on stage at Glastonbury in 2017 and then on the world tour later in the year. So
yes. And we have a question, the killing question of Christopher. I put it in the screen. Did you get to meet Katy Perry?
I have met Katy Perry, and Katy is lovely. She is incredibly normal. People go, oh, it's a pop star, and you go, oh, they're people. They're just people. But she's really lovely. She's incredibly professional, and I say that with absolute sincerity. She is essentially the CEO of a multinational company, so she really knows her stuff, and she really knows. You know, she made the effort to know my name before she walked in the room. Like, she didn't have to know who I was. I was just the guy doing some costume pieces. It was all right. It was the third or fourth gig we did for them, but she didn't have to know my name. But she made a point of knowing it before she walked in the room and introduced herself as if I didn't know who she was. But everyone calls her the boss because she is the boss, and she runs the show. She's in charge. And she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant. You know, she's great to work for. She creatively, it all comes out of her head. It's like she has a team around her, and they are one of the best teams we've ever worked with. They are utterly dedicated and loyal, and you make it happen. Like, there are times when you're going, this isn't going to happen. We're not going to sleep. How is this going to happen? And we all make it happen because it's part of a team. And when you're working with someone like Katie and her team, you really feel that. It's like having the support of a small country behind you, because you can just, oh, okay, you need that in 9 days. Okay, sure. It'll be expensive, but we can do it. Sure. Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, we're doing this. All right. And away we go. And that's how it happens. So,
wow.
You know, we get a pencil sketch, and can you make that? Sure. All right. How much? I don't know yet. We'll work it out as we go. So yeah, you know, they're great to work with. So, you know,
that's amazing.
You know, we're looking forward to doing it again when the opportunity comes. But you know, it's always about what the next exciting thing is.
Yes. So what's the next?
I don't have anything I can talk about, actually.
No, you have stuff around. I think in your workshop, you just turned, oh, this is secret. I cannot talk about this project.
I can't talk about the thing that is in front of me or the thing that is to that side of me. But that's, you know, that's part of what we do as well is, you know, our lovely clients demand a kind of level of privacy, and we keep things top secret. I mean, we have stuff that we finished a couple of months ago that I still can't talk about because it's not public yet, but it's not here anymore. It's gone.
But it's keep the surprise of what we do. It's to impress people and create a moment so if you still the punch.
Yeah, absolutely. But the part of the problem with that is I sometimes forget we've done something. And someone will go, oh, that thing we did. And I go, that was, yes. Shit, that was 2 years ago. Okay, all right. And it comes out of the woodwork, and you know, we have some dragons that the big carbon fiber dragons, they got sold on. They did a year where they were, and they pop up all over the place. And we go, oh, okay. And they sold on at a great price considering what they cost to make originally. But you know, that's part of the fun of it is
You saw your piece going into other
shows. And I'm not precious about things like that. I don't mind. It was a product. We made it. We sold it. But we have 2 of our elephants are on cruise ships. P&O's Arcadia and Britannia, and they will be on those ships till the show shuts, which could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could shut next year. So it's kind of nice because it happens, and you go, oh, we did that thing, and you're so busy focused on what's next and what you're working on that you forget sometimes to kind of celebrate things and go, oh, that was brilliant, we did this thing and it was awesome. Totally forgot we did it. But
it's like boys playing and the next day it's yesterday was yesterday now.
And it has to be, sadly, from a business point of view, if you get very precious about things you make, you can be sentimental about them, but if you get precious about them, if they're not yours, they're just not yours. Like, those are things that we have made, and they belong to the client. They're not mine. I'd love to have some of the things we've made over the years. Built 2 really cool animatronic cow heads a couple of years ago, but they belong to the performers, and they commissioned them. They paid X for them. We built them.
Deliver
the world, and
that's a good humble statement there. Just like, it's not yours, it's don't be precious.
You can't be. And I think don't get me wrong, you should look after things. I would rather not have to repair things that someone has sat on or dropped or fell off a shipping container, or I'd prefer not have to do that. But it's very similar to kind of, in a way, theatre doesn't belong to you in that sense. We're going back. Here we go. We're getting philosophical again. Kind of going back to that, but theatre is something you share with a group of people at a certain time. It's never the same again. So the audience own it for that moment, but it's never the same. You can go see the same show 10 times and see 10 different things, because one actor isn't in the mood, someone coughs at a strange point, someone laughs at a different point, and the whole show is suddenly strange. And you're like, oh, this scene wasn't funny before. And it's something that's very, very transitory, and it changes, and it's something you can share with people, but you don't own it. It just happens. And I think that's true with puppets as well. They just happen and go and live their lives.
I love that. It's great. It's great. It's subject also. So it's part of, we are the philosophical behind. So let's keep it that way.
But I think it's important, and I think and it's true with all the different cultures as well. You may go see some fantastic shadow puppetry in Indonesia and be like, wow, this is amazing. But if you try and take that out of what it was on that night, where you're around a campfire, and it's not the same thing. And as much as possible for theatre, we try and keep it consistent, but things go wrong, things change. It's live, it's immediate. Stuff for TV, you get one shot. The Brit Awards, that's it. It's one shot. You get 2 dress rehearsals, that's it. So you are in a aircraft hangar like space rehearsing, go from rehearsals into the O2 Arena, get 2 shots at it, unless it goes really badly. And then from that, that's it. Those 2 skeleton puppets went into a crate, were loaded on a truck and shipped back to California. And that's it. And then but it's on TV forever, and you can watch that Brit Awards forever and ever and ever. And if you look really closely, you can see my head torch. But that's part of what I like about it, and it's the immediacy and the one-time nature of live TV gigs. It's part of the fun.
Yes, and it was fun to receive you at the podcast, really much.
Yeah, glad I could do it. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, and if people want to see more of your job, we post your YouTube link.
Yes.
They could go on your website.
Yes, so there's YouTube website. We're also quite active on Instagram. The company has an Instagram page, which is at Leviathan_works, which I will type it for you now. So
Leviathan Workshop.
So that's the handle. And also, if you search for me, Jake Linzey, I have only just joined recently as myself, having had one for the company for a few years. I kind of went, I should probably do one of these for myself.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's part of it. I think to have like the puppeteer behind, it's also give a lot of credibility, and it gives the chance to see the man behind all of those things. So I dropped here the Instagram.
Yes, and Edwina's right. I know Ed. We've done some opening ceremonies together. We did the Paralympics 2012, I want to say, and a big robot news. So hi, Ed. Yeah, it's one shot. That's it. That's what's awesome about opening ceremonies. And coming up, we have the Commonwealth Games in 2 years, so we're hopeful for something interesting going on there for us.
Okay, so we will keep our eyes open.
Fingers crossed.
Yes, we wish you the best. Thank you everyone to join this episode. It's amazing to connect internationally. And if you want to see more, we put down below the Facebook account for the Patreon account. We have plenty of stuff coming. So just you put Puppet Podcast on Google and you will see all what we do right now. So thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And everyone, if you are in a time zone where it's night, good night. And if it's morning or afternoon, keep going. And life goes on with puppetry. Yes. Bye.
Bye.